All right. Hello. It's good to see all of you, even though I really can't. But anyway, here is so we've talked about character archetypes, right? So archetypes that revolve around certain character patterns, and we've talked about situational archetypes, which revolve around plot and common plot themes that we'll see in literature. So the last one we want to take a look at are image archetypes. So let's go and take a look at this here. So an image archetype is the use of certain images, numbers, shapes, colors, etc., that are used by authors or film directors or whatever, because when they use these things, they know the author will tend, excuse me, the audience is going to tend to have a common response. So when they see a setting sun, the audience tends to kind of have this common emotional reaction, this image of the setting sun. So a lot of times, authors will use these things frequently because they know that the things that you will associate with them as the audience are going to be very common. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few of them here. The first one is the water archetype, which tends to evoke an image of kind of cleansing or rebirth, right? We've seen a lot of times in in baptizing, right, that we're dipped in water to be cleansed of all of our sins, and then kind of we're born again. We have this moment of rebirth, right? Water tends also to evoke that kind of this mystery, right? Because it can be so vast and so powerful sometimes that it does seem to have this mysterious force and the ability that when we come out of the water, we are once again anew. So let's take a look at a few examples here. The first one is from O Brother, Where Art Thou? The baptizing scene in O Brother, Where Art Thou? All right, here it comes. Come on down, come on. I don't know the words, sorry. Brothers, let's go down. Uh-oh, we're having a sound problem. There we go. All right, so as you can see, Delmar is being dipped in the water.
Delmar's been saved. Well, that's it, boys. I've been redeemed. The preacher done washed away all my sins and transgressions. It's a straight and narrow from here on out.
All right, so you heard Delmar say himself, right? That preacher washed away all my sins and transgressions, right? So there's a good example of that cleansing and rebirth for the former criminal Delmar. Okay. And then we also have, there's another image here from the movie Gravity, at the end of Gravity, after Sandra Bullock's character goes through this horrible space odyssey ordeal. She lands in the water, and watch what happens. Ooh, look, I'm floating in the water with Sandra Bullock. How exciting. I guess kind of a spoiler alert, Sandra Bullock, survives. All right, and watch as she crawls towards the water and clings for life against the sand. Okay, and then in just a second, she's going to try to get up and walk and observe how it's almost as if she's doing it for the first time, as if she is being born again into a new world.
Thank you.
And she crawls from the water, born again, a brave, strong woman for having survived that horrible space ordeal that she encountered. All right. It's awesome. All right. Moving along, right? So we talked about water. The next one is the sun, right? So there's two images common associated with the sun. We have the rising sun and the setting sun. The rising sun, right, often will tend to evoke ideas of inspiration, creativity, the beginning of a new day, the dawn of a new day, right? The sun, the rising sun kind of kicks off the start of a new day, and new day means new opportunities, new chances, and new beginnings, right? So let's take a look at this example from a video from a movie I'm sure you have all seen. And feel free to sing along. All right. And as you can see, right, all the animals are waking up from their slumber and marching towards Pride Rock to witness the birth. There it is, the birth of the new king, Simba. And we'll talk about that image archetype in just a little bit. All right. Here we go. We're going to keep it moving here. We also have the setting sun, which evokes ideas kind of death or the end of something. Chaos or disorder. A lot of times when there's a setting sun, the character's life is going to be thrown into disorder because the traditional way of doing something is ending and the new way of something is beginning. So let's take a look at this clip from Star Wars. Well, you'll have to watch the Death Star assault on your own. No time for that. All right. Obviously, right, so Luke, it signals the end of Luke's life on his current planet as he knows it and as he gets ready to embark on the new adventure. All right, we also have the color red, right? Red we tend to associate, right, a lot of times with love and passion, things like that, as we can kind of see with this image right here of this woman dressed in this very passionate red dress with roses coming out of her hand, very strong passion images. But we also associate red with that kind of more of an angry or evil ideas or sin, right? So a lot of times we see the devil as being a red figure, very intentional on that part. Right, we also have the color blue, blue being the color of spiritual purity, right? So cleanse. We saw this with the baptismal scene in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and Sandra Bullock being reborn out of the water, right? So it does kind of have this spiritual power, right? This ability to cleanse oneself. But we also see this image of blue being sadness as well. So the sad character in the movie Inside Out was obviously signified by the color blue because she was feeling depressed and down. So she kind of represented that character's depressed, sad side. All right, we have the color green as well. We've heard this phrase of I'm green with envy, right? So perhaps that is why the Wicked Witch of the West's face in The Wizard of Oz was painted green, right? She was so horribly jealous of Dorothy and what Dorothy possessed, and she wanted it so bad. She was envious of everything Dorothy had, so she perhaps was the color green. We also see this, though, with images of life and nature and being reborn, right? Spring, things start turning green again and becoming fresh. They're being born again. So we see this with the Irish countryside, right? A lot of green images, green colors. Things are alive and very vibrant in that setting. We have the color black, right? Black evokes images of death and power, right? And villains. That's why probably Darth Vader from Star Wars wore black, right? He was a very powerful villainous figure. And then we also see death as kind of a color of mourning and sorrow, as evidenced by like widows and people that go to funerals. A lot of times are do wear black to show their mourning. And I have an image right here of a black widow, right? Something that a very deadly spider that if it bites you could do some pretty serious damage, right? So probably no coincidence they call it the Black Widow. We have the color white, right? Color of purity and innocence, right? And goodness, right? So on the left here we have Kate Middleton, the princess of, I don't know, some English territory, married to Prince William, though, that she wears the color white because it represents innocence and goodness, right? But it could also represent images of the supernatural and truth and clarity. I put an image of Walter White over here on the right from the show Breaking Bad as kind of an ironic figure, right? That his last name was White, yet he represented everything that wasn't truth and clarity as he tried to disguise himself from the rest of the world. So a lot of times authors and film directors or whatever will kind of play on these archetypes and kind of do the opposite of what you would expect. So naming a character White, you would think purity and truth and clarity and so on and so forth, goodness and innocence, and that was actually quite the opposite of Walter White in the show Breaking Bad. We also have other colors as well, yellow, gold, violet, orange, and I encourage you to do some additional research for your, if you want to look up some of these other colors for your archetype project, feel free, but there are some other colors that you could go over as well. We have some animals, right? So the snake, right, represents evil, corruption, sometimes sensuality, things associated with sex. Then also destruction, wisdom, and temptation, right? If we look at Harry Potter, right? That there was this image of Nagini, however you say the snake's name, but Voldemort's snake, right? This image of pure evil was represented with the snake. Earliest traces, probably in the Christian Bible, you could see that the devil presented himself to Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane as a snake, right? And we've seen this with Adam and Eve as well. In the Garden of Eden, the devil was presented as a snake. So temptation, obviously, we can see where that would come from. We have the dark bird, right? So like hawks, vultures, crows, and ravens tend to represent death, destruction, violence, evil. Maleficent's bird in Sleeping Beauty, right? No coincidence that that bird was a black bird to kind of represent something more powerful and ominous. We have the light bird, like the dove, tends to represent peace, tranquility, beauty, very more, I guess, more positive images. All right, some animal archetypes we have. The lion, right, which tends to represent strength and royalty. Go Royals, number one. There you go, there's my friend. Number one, right, but the no coincidence, right, the Royals are represented by a lion, meaning strength and power, right? To signify their baseball team. But then also we look at the Lion King, right? We'll no further than that title from that movie. The Lion King does tend to represent, obviously, something more powerful, all right? And it's not the Chipmunk King. That doesn't tend to work as well, but the Lion King tends to work to present images of royalty, all right? And then last but not least, we have numbers, right? So numbers, I listed 3, 4, and 7, but you could also look at some other ones as well. But 3 tends to represent unity, kind of a spiritual awareness. If you think about like the Trinity in Christian faiths, you see that. But spiritual awareness, light. So 3 is kind of a very powerful number. 4 is kind of the circle of life, representing the 4 natural elements of earth, water, fire, and air. So kind of 4 tends to be more of a natural thing, whereas 3 tends to be more of a spiritual thing. And then 7, we look at this. 7's kind of the unity between 3 and 4, completion. So it tends to be the perfect order. A lot of times we associate 7 as being like a perfect number. It's luck. But then we also have some 7 deadly sins associated with that as well. So it could have some more ominous meaning as well. All right, and so those are your image archetypes, right? So again, make sure that when you add these to your assignments, that you add the correct number to your project. And for you guys, that project is due Tuesday by the time you come to class. So don't forget. Have a wonderful day. Be good for the sub. I appreciate your cooperation. And yeah, peace, yo. Bye.